What's up, guys? Coach Andrew Simmons back here with you for segment number 9 of Jog Your Mind. And today we're talking all about strength training. Now, I know that for you guys out there, you're 3/4 of the way through your season. You're thinking, why are we talking about strength training right now? The reality is that it's something you need to be thinking about for the next season. And I figured now would be a great time. I have given you guys a ton of tools in this entire series, and this is the one that has impacted me most as an athlete, but also me most as a coach. Here at Peak Performance Running, one of the biggest things that we do, and I think one of the ways that we build culture, is to be able to have a weight room and 2 weight sessions a week. It's where we connect together. It's also where we can push each other and challenge each other. And it doesn't matter how much weight you're lifting. If that bar is going up and down, you can be a fan of somebody. And so what I'm going to encourage you guys to do as I talk through this episode and kind of try to dispel some of the things that I see getting in the way of athletes adopting a strength training routine is thinking about who in your friend group is someone that you can bring into the weight room. If you're not part of a club team or a program, I want you guys to think about finding somebody to go lift with this season. Not only are you guys going to have a better friendship because of it, you're going to be a better athlete when you come out the other side after winter. The reality is that the majority of your season will be done by November 1st or November 4th across the U.S. And that means that you guys have 16 weeks until your season starts up again at the end of February or early March. The amount of work that you can do and the amount of fitness that you can gain both by running, relatively aerobic, easy mileage. And again, I'm talking to my 800 meter to 3,200 meter athletes. Running aerobic mileage, doing moderate to light workouts, and lifting. You can go from being that JV guy or girl and being a varsity runner by the time February or March hits. But it requires focus and intention to get it done. We've talked a lot about assessing where the gaps are in our fitness and all those things. I think for most athletes, they don't quite understand why strength training is going to benefit them. And I will cut to the chase on this. This week's download I put in there for you guys. It is 12 movements. These are some of my favorite movements, but more specifically, these are the 12 favorite movements that I have that you guys can do at home with minimal equipment. You need a foam roller and a band. If you have access to a gym, you can do these at the gym, super easy. I have everything from how many reps, how long you should be doing these movements. It's all in there. It's 100% free. Consider this my gift as a way of trying to get all of you guys to lift more. I personally think that if more high school runners learn how to lift, we will see less injuries. We will see more enjoyment in the sport. And also, you guys gain yet another lifelong skill. You guys can run your entire lives, and you can go into a gym with confidence and know how to lift. That's 2 things that you can do your whole life that can benefit you, that when you're in college, when you don't have a ton of money or whatever it might be, if you're not going to go run in college, you can still go out for a run. And all you need is a pair of shoes and a pair of shorts. And the reality is that the same amount of equipment is required to lift. So that is what I have for you guys today. Let's talk a little bit and dive into strength training for distance runners. So first and foremost, the number one thing that I see in terms of resistance is that when I tell athletes, hey, you should probably get into the weight room, they go, I don't want to get too bulky. And I don't know where this came from, because I think a lot of people associate like muscles with bulkiness and bigness, right? They think of the Arnold Schwarzeneggers and Hulks of the world. And the reality is that even if you lift twice a week and you're running 30 to 60 minutes every single day, you're just not going to be able to put on a huge amount of muscle mass. To put on a ton of muscle mass and really build big muscles, you have to eat an exorbitant amount of calories, and you have to train specifically to put on that amount of muscle. So it's not only a calorie thing, it's also a specificity of training thing. The third thing is that if you are lifting at a level that is going to let you build that much mass, you're going to be sore, you're going to be beat up, you're not going to be able to maintain a training level that is going to be conducive to getting results from an aerobic standpoint. And so these two things kind of fight each other. When you're trying to build a lot of muscle, you have to break it down. Well, the reality is that breakdown creates soreness. And so when you have sore muscles that don't want to move well and they're depleted, you're trying to demand from them something aerobic. They kind of do this. They kind of push against each other. They kind of fight. And this is a very archaic and basic example. But the reality is trying to be an athlete that is doing like bodybuilding and figure level lifting, and also trying to be, a high level, high performer, varsity level or beyond athlete in the aerobic perspective, these two things are going to crunch into each other. And the thing that's going to be caught in the middle there is you. You will be broken down if you are trying to lift hard, lift heavy, and run high mileage. So what's the compromise and what's best? The reality is for most runners, if you guys are doing 1 or 2 light to moderate workouts a week, a long run, some aerobic work mixed in there, and lifting moderately or even easily twice a week and doing specific movements that are going to help you from a patterning perspective, that is kind of the ideal compromise between lifting and keeping up with your aerobic capacity and aerobic stimulus. And basically what I'm saying here is lift a lot, early on, and then you can taper that off as you need to get more specific with your running. So yeah, you can lift heavy in November and December. That's cool. But the reality is that if you are trying to build your aerobic capacity and you need to build your mileage, you're not going to be able to lift super heavy. You need to kind of focus more on the aerobic and use strength training to kind of work on the areas that are your weak areas. If you're like, I don't know what my weak areas are, I've never lifted in my life, let me tell you, by a majority, most runners are going to struggle to have good upper body strength. I'm going to guess that my audience that's listening to me right now, if you guys can do more than 3 pull-ups, I'd be super stoked. I see a lot of athletes, especially distance runners, that just can't do pull-ups. Why are pull-ups important? Arm drive. And being able to have good coordination in your upper body and strength in your upper body is going to help you get up hills and generate power more effectively. A lot of people think if I have strong legs and strong lungs, I'm going to be a fast runner. But if you don't have a developed upper body as well, you're not going to be able to generate that power and maintain your mechanics easily. Your arms balance your legs balance your arms. They've got to be in unison with each other. Areas that I most commonly see athletes struggle with: hips, whether that's IT band, glute med weaknesses, pelvic drop, those types of things. The knee gets a lot of pain associated, especially with younger runners. Pain directly under the knee with Osgood Schlatters. That's not something we can really get out of when it comes to lifting. We see lower leg issues. One of the biggest things I felt like we did last year was integrate a series of both calf raises as well as doing small plyometrics on plates as part of our strength training program. That was foundational to us having a very, very low prevalence of injury, not only during our season as a club program, but watching these athletes go on. And that is because when you go from a regular trainer to a spike, there is a lot that is not in that spike, and what has to make it up? Your lower leg. From there, we go down the chain even more, from the knee to the calf, to the soleus, to the Achilles and the ankle. And it's like, how do I lift for my ankles? Well, that's dynamic stability, and that's working on balance. So if you go in, this week's download for all of you guys is a strength training series. This series that I mentioned early on, it has a lot of marching in it. And I want you guys to do that marching barefoot. If you're not allowed to do that in your gym, do it in a pair of, pretty movable shoes. That's going to help you guys get better control of the muscles in and around your ankle, so that as you are running in a pair of spikes around a track really, really quick this spring, they're going to basically be able to manage the load that you're putting through it. So I promised you guys we would dispel another myth. And the other myth here is that if I lift, I'm going to be slow. And I'll dispel this really quickly. If strength training and slowness were correlated, then sprinters wouldn't lift. The reality is that you are a distance runner, more than likely, if you're listening to this and have any interest in what I'm saying. And the reality is that there's going to be some crossover. Now, are you going to lift like a sprinter and run like a distance runner? No. The reality is that we need to think about how to generate power and being able to take what we do and what sprinters do, which is high velocity, high speed, those types of things, and be able to take a less high velocity version of that to the weight room. So what does that look like? It looks like being able to do some step ups. It looks like being able to do small plate plyometrics or even some moderate plyometrics at specific points in the season. You're not going to get slower by lifting. At first, yeah, maybe the first 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to feel slower because you're doing something new and your brain has to catch up with it. And that is going to kind of bring me to my third point here. The biggest benefit you guys can gain from doing strength training is actually teaching your body how to run better and run more efficiently. I use an analogy in the blog that talks about if you were to drive your car with 4 flat tires, and these don't have to be flat. I'm talking, maybe you've got 10 pounds of pressure in there. They're lumpy. They look like, old worn out donuts. Now, granted, you can get from A to B, but you're going to use a lot more gas and it's going to take you longer to brake, and it's just not going to be an efficient way to drive your car. When your tires are at pressure in your car, you're going to be able to zoom. You've got all the confidence in the world. Strength training is basically the equivalent of getting everything tuned in your car perfectly. And this is in addition, of course, to doing the right workouts, having enough mileage. When those 3 things are in sync, that's when we're able to consistently produce results week after week and see that progress happen. I believe that strength training is a great way for you to build muscle memory, as well as what we call patterning. Basically, what we're doing is that we're trying to take our strength training model, this is the one that we do at Peak, and replicate different phases of the gait cycle. So whether that's doing a step up, we're trying to encourage more knee drive and build strength in the posterior chain so that when you're pushing off and trying to generate power to get off the line in an 800, you've built that power because you've been doing things like step ups. Now, we can change a whole lot in that phase of like, how fast do we do them? How heavy? How tall is the box? There's so many factors that you as an athlete don't need to worry about. That's my job. That's Katie's job, our strength coach. That is what she does really, really well. So that is, the short and sweet of how I look at strength training is I believe that strength training and the way that we program it here at Peak is to take the different phases of gait, whether that's knee drive, heel return, dynamic balance, being able to do things on a single leg, anti-rotation. This was one thing that's really big in the download this week. I talk a lot about, if you find any of my running form stuff on YouTube, just search my name in running form. We talk about the rotation that happens in our shoulders as we're running. And so if you watch people that kind of really roll their shoulders and things, it's not that they don't have a strong core or that they don't have a strong upper body. It's that they aren't able to coordinate that and control that movement, and they haven't patterned themselves to have relatively flat shoulders, a good arm swing, and anti-rotation, so resisting that desire to rotate. And once we do a lot of the anti-rotation work that's in here, you're able to put all of your energy going forward. Now imagine, just for a second, take however long your 5K is. I want you to imagine just sitting back and forth really viciously, just back and forth for 15 or 16 minutes. How tired are you going to be from sitting and doing that, let alone trying to breathe hard and move well? How much energy are you expending just in that rotation and that twist? That's the idea behind free speed, which is the last topic I talk about in the blog this week. Free speed has kind of become a fun thing that I put into a lot of my running form sessions. Free speed is about the idea of eliminating all of your inefficiencies as a runner. It means taking video of yourself. It's mean that you actually take an eye and look for where do you need to improve and what things do you need to work on, whether that's, better knee drive, is it posture, is it, any sort of thing within there that's saying, oh, what can I do to help increase my posture or my knee drive or my heel return? And think about those things as you're doing the movements that I have for you guys this week. So much of it is actually related to posture because that's the number one area that I see that athletes need to improve when it comes to strength training. With that said, again, please go in, take a look at the download that I have for you guys this week. And then I have a couple of short announcements. I know we're right at 15 minutes. A couple of things. One, for my local peak people that are listening, our winter program is open. I look forward to having you guys out there for that. Number two, if you are listening and you are not local here to Colorado, or you are in Colorado but too far to get to us from the Denver area, we have a remote training group this year, and it's something I'm super excited about to share with you guys. Basically, for 4 months, I have a training program for 800 meter, 1600 meter, and 3200 meter athletes. They're not all the same workouts. It's individualized middle distance versus long distance. And then the thing that really makes this special is that twice a month we get together for a half an hour. We talk about training, we talk about some mental tools, and we're doing all of this for $200 for the entire thing. So I've already gotten a couple of really exciting signups, and I look forward to having a few more of you guys join us for this. With that said, that is all that I've got for you guys. I hope this kind of gets your wheels turning about maybe adding strength training if it's not something you regularly do. If it is something that you regularly do, I hope it gets you guys excited for the upcoming off season. But with that said, keep your eye on the ball. We still got a lot of this season left. We've got a couple good races, and I think all of you guys that are listening, you guys are ready for it. I know you guys are. I'm looking forward to seeing some really exciting results from state, regional, and league meets coming up. That said, see you guys later.